Good night, dear listeners. Here is Andre Branco, and you are on the channel Souls Like. Today I bring you a story that will touch deep in the heart of those who have felt the weight of prejudice or the pain of being underestimated. Get ready to get emotional. Larissa adjusted the necklace in front of the mirror, admiring how the emerald dress enhanced every curve she cost so much to recover after Miguel's birth. That body carved the force of discipline was his passport in a world that, until recently, seemed as far away as the stars. Daughter of teachers from a small lost village in the Altai Buthers, she grew up listening that only study and determination would take her out of those forgotten valleys. And behold, he was there, formed with praise in economics, with a job in one of the most coveted companies of the capital and bride of Kirill Chadrin, heir to a luxury boutique's empire. The novel was a whirlwind. In 6 months, he was already sliding a ring on his finger. Larissa believed that happiness was complete, until she met Albina Stanislavovna. From the first date, the mother-in-law made it clear that an ambitious rustic was not worthy of her son. Each dinner turned into a minefield where Albina, with sharp smiles like blades, found new ways to belittle her daughter-in-law. The worst thing was that, despite her humble roots, Larissa spoke 3 languages, had impeccable fashion and an intelligence that rivaled Kirill's own, and that made her even more unbearable in the matriarch's eyes. That night would be another round of the dirty game that Albina loved to play, her 60th birthday, celebrated in one of Moscow's most exclusive restaurants. "Love, are we late?" Kirill appeared at the door, impeccable in the navy suit, the 35 years carved in successful man traces. "My mother hates when we arrived after the others." Larissa sighed. Kirill was an attentive husband, but the shadow of Albina was enough to appear to become a frightened boy, unable to confront his mother's manipulations. "Almost ready," he said, adjusting the jewelry as he looked at his son, dormant on the bed. "I hope this time your mother does not comment on my interior accent." He forced an embarrassed smile. "You overdo it. Mom is just direct. It has always been so, leading people. It is part of her success." Larissa didn't argue. It was useless to explain that Albina's frankness was actually a refined art of humiliation, calculated to hurt where it hurt. The restaurant hall was already bubbling with the murmurs of the Muscovite elite. Albina reigned to the head of the main table, surrounded by her most faithful allies. Seeing his son, his face illuminated until his eyes landed in the daughter-in-law. "Kiriusha, finally," he exclaimed, raising his hands in theatrical gesture. "I was already thinking that my only son would forget his mother's birthday." Kirill kissed her face. "Congratulations, mother. You are radiant." Albina flourished under the compliment, but her smile withered by turning to Larissa. "Ah, you came too," he said, as if her daughter-in-law's presence was an unexpected discomfort. "Olga Mikhailovna," she called her friend, "this is the daughter-in-law I told her, the girl in that village. What's her even?" "Nezhino." "Najina," said Larissa, Serena, with a smile that would disarm even the most cynical. "A charming place on the feet of Altai. So beautiful that even National Geographic made a documentary there." Albina's lips squeezed. She didn't like it when the daughter-in-law didn't bow. The night followed in the same tone. Between champagne bowls, Albina released veiled barbs over Larissa's rustic origins, while Kirill feigned not to hear. After some drinks, the mother-in-law lost until discretion. "You know," he announced to the guests when Kirill brought her for the first time, "I thought it was a joke." Imagine, she didn't know which fork to use for fish. It was a blatant lie. Larissa dominated every label rule, but chose to keep silence. "No there. Not that night." When they served the main course, they all enjoyed a delicacy of the French gastronomy. Except her. In front of Larissa, a portion of industrialized Olivier Salam, clearly thrown on the plate hastily. "I thought you would feel more comfortable with something familiar," justified Albina, with sweet facade. "These foreign delicacies are not for any taste." Kirill stared at his own plate, as if the answers of the universe were written. The apex came at the time of dessert. Albina, already altered by alcohol, pushed her Olivier's remains into Larissa's dish with a dramatic gesture. "A peasant should be grateful for any crumb," he said, challenging. Kirill's nervous laughter echoed through the table, too high, too forced. Some guests laughed at education. Larissa, however, got up slowly. His movement cut the air like a blade. Albina Stanislavovna, she began, with a calm that froze the environment. Where I was born, they taught me two things: respect is not measured for money or surname. And that even when they do not deserve, we honor the elders. He paused, watching his mother-in-law's superiority mask crack. In 5 years of marriage, you have never lost a chance to humiliate me. But do you know what is curious? I never saw her happy. Not once, despite all the fortune, power, contacts. In my village, people smile with little. Because happiness is not bought in boutiques. He turned to Kirill, who stared at her with wide eyes. I know you love your mother, and I never asked you to choose between us. But today you laughed as they despised me. This, I don't forgive. He took a small package from his bag, wrapped in bright paper. Congratulations, Albina Stanislavovna. It is a manual work of the artisans of my land. Let him remind you, the true value is not in the crib, but in the soul of those who carry it. He left the gift on the table and left without hurry, while the silence behind her was so dense that it could be cut with a knife. At home, he went straight to his son's room. Miguel slept hugging the teddy bear, the blonde curls scattered throughout the pillow. Larissa adjusted the blanket and kissed her forehead, smelling the sweet childhood smell. I didn't know what would come ahead, but one thing was certain: no one, not even the mother of her husband, would step back in her dignity impunity. The front door rang late at night. Kirill's footsteps faltered in the hallway. Whether by alcohol or guilt, it mattered little. He entered the room at the end and found Larissa awake, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. I should have defended you, he murmured after a long silence. I don't deserve your forgiveness. She turned to face him. It's not a matter of forgiveness, Kirill. It is a matter of respect. I deserve as much as your mother. I know. He sat on the edge of the bed, his handy hands. After you left, she continued, and I finally said she couldn't stand it anymore. That, if he did not change, he would lose not only you, but, the voice failed. Larissa didn't have to hear the rest. Sometimes silence says more than any word. And that night, for the first time, he chose to be on the right side. Larissa rested on her elbows, surprised by that confession. And what did she answer? First, an access of fury. Then he locked himself in the bathroom crying for half an hour. And then, opened the gift you gave you. The memory of the small carved cedar box, brought by the mother-in-law of his last trip to his homeland, came to light. Inside, the old family brooch, passed from generation to generation by the women of the clan. An object of value not by gold or for the stones, but for the history it carried. She spent a long time looking at him, Kirill said, her voice still trembling. Then he asked if it was a relic, as he said in the ticket. When I confirmed, something in it changed. He said he needed time to think. The weeks that followed were a watershed. Albina Stanislavovna disappeared. He did not call, did not appear, as if he had taken himself to a silent battle with himself. Larissa returned to work, and Kirill, for the first time, began to see her own role in that conflict that already lasted too much. Until, a month later, the unexpected, a phone call. I want to talk to you. Only with you, asked the mother-in-law, setting a date in a discreet coffee near Larissa's office. When he arrived, he found a different woman. Without the usual rigid posture, without the sharp look. Albina Stanislavovna cheered a napkin between her fingers, and for the first time seemed fragile. Thanks for coming, she started as soon as Larissa sat in front of him. Did you want to talk? The mother-in-law nodded, taking a deep breath before diving into words that she had never imagined. After what you said on my birthday, I spent sleepless nights. At first, I just felt angry. But then I started to remember myself at the age of 20. He paused, as if the weight of the memory oppressed her. Did you know I'm not from Moscow? I came from a poor town in the Tver region, with no contact, no money. I had to fight for every crumb of what I have achieved. Larissa listened, astonished. That was an Albina I had never known. Maybe. The mother-in-law's voice failed for a moment. Maybe I see you the girl I went. And it scares me. Because you have the same brightness in the eyes I had. And I was afraid. The fingers tightened the napkin tighter. Fear that you would conquer more than me. Fear that by her side I would look old, irrelevant. Fear that Kirill will love her more than me. The silence that followed was carried. For the first time, Larissa did not see before him the relentless mother-in-law, but a woman with scars she had never shown. I never tried to get your son out of you, Larissa said softly. And I will never try. Albina Stanislavovna took the family brooch from the bag. The object that, according to her, explained many things. I never received anything like this, he confessed, his embargoed voice. Nothing with so much history, so much meaning. My family had no relics. We were too poor for that. He extended the object to Larissa, in a gesture that looked almost sacred. This should be with you. To her daughter, when she is born. But, the eyes shone, I would like to deserve another gift one day. Perhaps. It was the first step. Tortuous, uncertain but true. After that day, something between them began to transform. Albina stopped launching barbs, and Larissa learned to see beyond her mother-in-law's armor, a woman who, like all, carried fears and insecurities. Kirill didn't believe what I saw. But it was grateful, infinitely grateful, because those two women finally chose the path of peace. He is no longer the man divided between two loyalties and became a real husband for the first time. A present child. A year later, Anna was born, a name chosen in honor of Larissa's grandmother. In the christening, Albina Stanislavovna presented her daughter-in-law with a sapphire necklace, her family relic bought when she opened her first store, kept secret for decades. I promised myself that I would give it to the woman who was worthy of my son, he said, with a smile that was neither shadow of the old coldness. And you, Larissa, are more than worthy. 5 years have passed since that birthday that changed everything. The Shadranik family will now meet around a tight table in Dacha, celebrating Misha's birthday. Albina, that the children affectionately called Barborbolika Alia, helped Larissa tidy up the dishes, when she suddenly asked, with a malicious glow in her eyes. Remember that Olivier? Larissa released a laugh. How to forget? I confess one thing, I hate Russian salad. I always hated. I ordered that only P.A.R.A. provoking you. And I love it, Albina admitted, laughing too. Especially my mother's. They looked at each other and laughed, drawing the attention of the others. What it was? Asked Kirill, entering the little Anna in her arms. Women's secrets, said Albina, winking at Larissa. True, he confirmed, still laughing. And you know what else? Today I prepared a special Olivier, with my mother's recipe. I think even those who do not like will approve. That night, for the first time, they felt a real family. No masks, no resentment, without the need to prove anything to anyone. Only people who, against all probabilities, had learned to value their differences. And Olivier? Delicious. Until Albina Stanislavovna ordered bis.